Hello, wonderful staff of the Northwest Kidney Center. This is Andy Brokenbroke coming to you from the flagship unit in Kent. This month, I'd like to extend a heartfelt shout out to our close friends at the Auburn Northwest Kidney Center unit, which is a small but highly efficient dialysis unit that provides the exceptional care you have come to expect from the Northwest Kidney Center. This month, I'd like to discuss innovations in dialysis care, specifically focusing on some technology that may eventually make its way into routine dialysis practice. There have been several notable advancements in technology over the past few years. Today, we will review developments in membrane technology, discuss the integration of artificial intelligence into dialysis machines, review portability of dialysis machines, and finally, we'll review a new medication called Vadadustat or Valfaceo, which is an alternative to erythropoietin as a red blood cell stimulating agent. Let's begin with a discussion of new dialysis membranes. So by way of review, a modern dialysis membrane or filter is essentially a cylinder of inert plastic, the purpose of which is to separate the blood component from the dialysate component by means of numerous tiny hollow tubes. So you can see a dialyzer here to the right. It contains about 10,000 hollow fibers with a total surface area between 1 and 2 meters squared. This electron micrograph on the right shows that the tubes are fenestrated. That is, they have little holes in them. Now, blood flows through the tubes, and the tubes, of course, are bathed in dialysate. And being porous, it allows particles to flow in between the blood and the dialysate components down a diffusion gradient. Now, a good dialysis filter should be low cost to produce. It should be really, really thin. Should be very strong to withstand the hydrostatic pressure, as the blood flows through the tubes. It should not be prone to forming clots, so it should be non-thrombogenic, and it should be something called biologically compatible. That is, it should be safe for humans. It should not activate the body's immune system, should not cause inflammation, basically should be an inert substance that does not cause any problems to the dialysate patient. And most of the dialysis membranes that we use today, fit these criteria. They're synthetic, they're highly biocompatible, and they are very, very thin. Modern day dialysis filters represent a significant improvement upon what we used to have. Roundtree and Turner, who did the first dialysis experiments with animals, used a dialysis membrane made of cellulose, which is basically, plant fiber mashed together, and they painstakingly deposited the fiber onto these glass tubes that you can see using an ether solution, and that was the first dialysis membrane. So again, cellulose is it's a plant fiber. Think paper. I mean, paper is basically made of cellulose as well. In 1937, cellophane was used as an alternative substance for a dialysis membrane for the early rotating drum dialyzers. Basically, you have these great big sheets of what look like plastic or saran wrap or food wrap, and basically they wrap around this drum and they serve to separate the blood and the dialysate components. Cellophane is just a thin, transparent sheet made of regenerated cellulose, and it's fairly low permeability to air and oils and grease and bacteria and stuff like that. So it's useful for food packaging, and it was useful also as a dialysate membrane. In 1943, cuprophane was introduced as the next dialysis membrane. It's a trade name for cuprammonium rayon. It's made from natural cellulose. So again, this is a cellulose-based dialysate membrane, which is dissolved in cuprammonium solution. Problem is, it's not very biocompatible. Remember, biocompatibility refers to the lack of harm that it causes a host. So it should be an inert substance, but cuprophane, unfortunately, activates the body's complement system, which is a part of our immune system, and white blood cells, and basically causes a lot of inflammation. Modern dialyzers, the dialyzers that we currently use in our unit, are not based on cellulose. They are entirely synthetic. So they usually are composed of either polyaryl ether sulfones or polyether sulfones. That said, their chemical composition is a guarded industry secret. Researchers at Vanderbilt University in 2024 published a paper in which they have reported the development of a dialysis filter using carbon nanotubes. What are these? Well, you can see a picture to the right. Carbon nanotubes are tiny tubes formed by a sheet of carbon atoms bonded in a hexagonal honeycomb mesh structure that has very small and very smooth channels. These nanotube membranes offer several potential improvements over what we are currently using. They are much more efficient, so they are high efficiency dialyzers, and consequently have the potential to allow for shorter dialysis sessions. They make it easier to remove toxins and waste from the blood without letting important proteins escape, which can be a problem with traditional filters. They allow for enhanced and effective removal of so-called middle molecules. These are middle-sized molecules, somewhere between 50 and 60 kilodaltons, that are not removed very well by current dialyzers, and which can accumulate in the body over time if you're on dialysis for many years, and that can deposit in your soft tissues and your joints and cause something called dialysis amyloidosis. Their straight channel geometry as well as slippery walls allow for enhanced blood flow, and they are less likely to clot than current dialyzers. And finally, they have significantly higher hydraulic permeability, so more permeability to water, so more than an order of magnitude compared to modern dialyzers when normalized to pore area. Another group at UNC Chapel Hill has developed a dialysis membrane out of something called graphene oxide. So their project is called Graphene Oxide Membranes for Portable Kidney Dialysis, and their acronym is GENESIS. Graphene oxide refers to a mixture of oxidized carbon materials with variable structure that can also allow for very efficient dialysis. So they are high efficiency membranes, and because like with the carbon nanotube membranes, because they're so high efficiency, there is a potential to significantly miniaturize the dialysis membrane and get the same clearance. The aim of these research is to develop membranes efficient enough to allow for a much smaller filter, potentially the size of a smartphone. That is, the technology has the potential to significantly reduce the size of current dialysis membranes. The ultimate goal is to enable continuous round-the-clock dialysis with an implantable dialysis filter. And there are several groups working on implantable kidney filters that would work constantly, 24/7, and therefore obviate the need for conventional thrice-weekly dialysis. So the advantage of a really small, potentially implantable filter is part of a push to make dialysis more portable. The Northwest Kidney Center works hard to make dialysis available to patients outside of the conventional dialysis unit. Part of that process involves having a home dialysis program. One of the most commonly used home hemodialysis machines is the Next Stage system. You can see it in this picture to the right. It's not very big. It's maybe the size of a really large computer printer, and it's small enough to be used at home or for travel. Say if you bring the dialysate bags. It's sitting on top of a separate machine that actually makes up the dialysate, so the two together are pretty big, but you can bring the Next Stage machine, put it in the trunk of your car, even put it on an airplane, and if you have bags, that contain the dialysate, you can travel with it. Still, it's pretty heavy, so it weighs 70 pounds with the carrying case. You can put it on an airplane, can put it in the trunk of your car, but it's still not the most portable device that you can imagine. Northwest Kidney Center also offers a home dialysis machine called the Tableau hemodialysis system. It's also smaller than in-center machines, but it is larger than the Next Stage machine. And that's because it has a very unique feature. It has an integrated water purification and dialysis production system built within it. And so it's really easy for patients to use. It's got a touchscreen interface. The machine makes dialysate on demand, so it doesn't need to be made up in preparation for dialysis. So it's a very convenient machine to use. Again, it's too big to travel with, but it does give patients the flexibility of dialyzing at home when they want and where they want. A major technological aspiration remains the development of a wearable artificial kidney. So something that is a lot smaller, that's lighter, that can be worn, all the time, and so replace the need for thrice weekly dialysis. The wearable artificial kidney is designed to be worn like a belt or a vest, allowing for continuous dialysis throughout the day, with the hope of providing a more natural, continuous filtration similar to how the kidneys work. Operates on batteries. It can be worn for extended periods. It is undergoing clinical trials. It's not commercially available. They've had a lot of problems with clotting of the membrane, so that's limited its generalizability, but they are still working on it, and the concept is a good one. But an even more exciting option is an implantable artificial kidney. This involves miniaturization of the dialysis filter, which could be made possible by the use of, say, the carbon nanotube or the graphene oxide membranes. The implantable artificial kidney functions like a bioengineered kidney, so it filters blood continuously without the need for external machines or dialysis sessions. The Kidney Project Initiative is one of the most promising artificial kidney projects, and it's done at UCSF. Basically, their design combines a hemofilter for removing waste and excess fluid with something called a bioreactor for replicating some of the kidney's biologic functions, say erythropoietin production. So it could potentially be a fully automated implantable device. The device operates without batteries or electrical power, so it relies on the body's natural pressure for filtration. So the theme of what I've covered so far is technology. It takes technology to develop new membranes, to miniaturize them, to consider implantable kidney filters. All of this involves technology. So another example of the application of technology is the integration of artificial intelligence in the dialysis procedure. Artificial intelligence can be described as computer-based intelligence that encompasses the ability to learn from data. It combines concepts from several fields such as computer science, mathematics, statistics, and data science. And like all aspects of society, artificial intelligence is being integrated into dialysis management systems to optimize treatment outcomes. The integration of artificial intelligence into the dialysis world has the potential to enhance personalization and early intervention. So, for example, artificial intelligence can help monitor vital signs or adjust treatment parameters in real time or predict complications such as fluid overload or clotting risks. The basic idea is that computers have access or analyze large data sets from dialysis sessions, patient records, monitoring to identify patterns and predict potential complications. For example, AI systems can analyze fluid removal trends during dialysis and make recommendations for more precise fluid management. So this helps reduce the risk of fluid overload, which can lead to heart failure or pulmonary edema. AI can perform real-time monitoring of blood pressure, urea levels, and fluid balance during the dialysis session. It can help personalize dialysis settings. So AI, for example, can adjust filtration rates and duration of dialysis based on each patient's unique needs. Can also provide some early warning signs. So machines can now detect blood clot risks and assess access issues before they become severe. So, irrespective of how it works, artificial intelligence requires a lot of training data in order to be integrated into a dialysis practice pattern. So this makes dialysis a particularly attractive field for AI because in dialysis care, it's a highly standardized process. It generates a large volume of longitudinal patient-level data. So first, AI requires a large amount of training data, and this can come from the dialysis prescription, like the treatment time, ultrafiltration volume flow rates, medical treatment administered on site, for example, the use of Mircera or other erythropoiesis stimulating agents, and all sorts of data that comes from the electronic health record. These data can be complemented by other information on patient demographics, comorbidities, or laboratory results. What types of data can be integrated? So basically interdialytic vital signs, blood pressure and heart rate, free text notes from the staff, the nephrologist, social determinants of health data. In the future, patients may even wear devices in between the dialysis treatments to give us information on what we call interdialytic period, or the time in between the dialysis sessions. Most of the AI integration currently is done in research settings. Broadly speaking, the purpose again is to focus on diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment recommendations. So, what are some examples of the use of artificial intelligence in dialysis? Zhang published a study in 2022 that used an AI-driven image analysis to classify a vascular access aneurysm as either non-advanced or advanced, and basically found it was highly accurate in identifying aneurysmal fistulas that needed vascular intervention. Lee published a study in 2021 using data from over 260,000 hemodialysis sessions the model was predictive of the person developing intradialytic hypotension. So with high accuracy, could tell which patients were likely to develop low blood pressure during dialysis. Barberi in 2016 developed an AI-driven anemia control model to suggest iron and erythropoiesis stimulating agent doses more accurate than our current protocols. Are there any barriers to introducing artificial intelligence into dialysis practice? Yeah, there are a few. So one, there is some hesitancy on the side of dialysis organizations and healthcare providers to implement AI models in their daily workflow. We are all creatures of habit. Things are working fine. Why disrupt what we are currently doing? Second, there are some privacy concerns. So the development of these AI methods in dialysis shares common challenges as other areas, such as data privacy considerations, lack of clear cause and effect interpretation of model output. AI models only rarely allow the user to understand how a specific outcome is reached. So they're almost like a black box, and that can be frustrating for some users. I mean, AI will tell you the EPO dose, so it'll tell you, whether or not someone is going to develop intradialytic hypotension, but it doesn't always tell you why they think that's likely. It just spits out an answer, and it's like a big black box. And sometimes that's hard for providers to accept. Other problems arise regarding the portability between patient populations. So you may have a great AI model well described in the literature and made publicly available that's for one particular population, but it may not necessarily be useful or applicable to a different patient population. And finally, just another practical challenge is that AI models require a very mature technical infrastructure and experts to maintain it. And they're not necessarily clear regulatory requirements and pathways as to whether it would be classified as a medical advice or clinical decision support system. The last innovation I want to discuss with you today is the introduction of a new therapy with respect to anemia management. The treatment of anemia in patients with kidney failure on dialysis has traditionally relied heavily on the use of erythropoiesis stimulating agents such as Mircera or Aranesp. Kidneys normally make a hormone called erythropoietin that tells the bone marrow to make red blood cells, and when you have kidney failure, you don't make that hormone. And so essentially what we are doing is we are trying to replace the hormone that the kidneys normally make. And it's very efficacious. However, there are potential complications, and these include increased risk of cardiovascular complications, blood vessel clotting or thrombosis, malignancy when used at high doses, and an overall increase in mortality associated with the use of these erythropoiesis stimulating agents. A relatively new and alternative treatment for patients with anemia associated with kidney disease is the use of small molecule inhibitors called hypoxia-inducible factor prolyl hydroxylase. The drug name that's now available and FDA approved is called Vidatastat, or the brand name is Vafseo. The way it works is it inhibits an enzyme called prolyl hydroxylase domain oxygen sensors, and that tricks the cells in the body into thinking that there is hypoxia, and that leads to the transcription of hypoxia-inducible factors, including erythropoietin. So basically, you can trick the body into making more erythropoietin and then not have to give them exogenous erythropoietin. Vadadustat or Vafseo is produced by Akebia Therapeutics. It is a HIF-PH inhibitor with safety and efficacy profile that's non-inferior to Aranesp. It was compared with Aranesp in the study for the treatment of anemia in dialysis patients. FDA approved as of April 2024 for treating anemia in dialysis patients. It is orally administered without regard to the timing or type of dialysis. Most common side effects include thromboembolic events or blood clots, diarrhea, and high blood pressure. There were two studies which convinced the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to allow vadadustat for clinical use. Both of these were global multi-center randomized active controlled non-inferiority open label trials involving a total of about 4,000 adults who were on dialysis, basically had anemia secondary to chronic kidney disease, been on dialysis for at least 3 months. And they were randomized to either vadadustat or darbepoetin for 52 weeks. And after 52 weeks, participants continued the study medication to assess long-term safety until a major adverse cardiovascular event occurred. And they also looked at the efficacy with respect to hemoglobin increase. And so how effective were these medications at increasing and maintaining an acceptable hemoglobin? What they found was that this medication, vadadustat, was non-inferior to, in other words, worked just as well as darbepoetin or Aranesp with respect to both cardiovascular safety as well as correction and maintenance of hemoglobin concentration. So we've talked at the Northwest Kidney Center about maybe starting to use this medication. It is an option, and just good to know that we've been using Aranesp or erythropoiesis stimulating agents, for 30 years at the Kidney Center almost, and it's good to know that we now have an alternative. Let's now discuss what we've learned today. There are new dialysis membranes made of carbon nanotubes or graphene oxide, which are more efficient, afford better clearance, and have potential for much smaller size than conventional dialyzers. Home dialysis machines that allow patients to dialyze outside of a conventional unit include the Next Stage and Tableau. They are smaller machines used by patients at home. They're not exactly portable, but again, they are small enough for home use. But future portable options may include the wearable artificial kidney, or even better yet, the implantable artificial kidney, both of which are in clinical trials. Artificial intelligence is starting to become integrated into dialysis machines, has the potential to help with optimization of fluid removal, medication dosing, real-time monitoring of the patient, and early identification of potential problems, say with the access or with blood pressure. And finally, vadadustat or Vafseo is an oral medication available to stimulate red blood cell production that is different from what we've used for the last 30 years, which is erythropoietin. Okay, time for the monthly quiz. Question number 1, what are current dialysis membranes made of? So we no longer use cellulose to make up dialysis membranes. Instead, we use entirely synthetic membranes. They're composed of polyaryl ether sulfones or polyether sulfones, and their chemical composition, of course, is a guarded industry secret. Question number 2, name 3 advantages of carbon nanotube and graphene oxide membrane dialyzers. That's right. So they are much more efficient. They allow for better middle-molecule clearance, potential for much smaller size. And also they're a lot smoother, and so they're much less likely to form blood clots. Question number 3, name 2 potential portable dialysis technologies. Correct. So we have the Next-Same home hemodialysis machine, weighs about 70 pounds with a carrying case, so sort of portable. There's the wearable artificial kidney, which is in clinical trials. And finally, the implantable artificial kidney, which is my favorite option. Question number 4, what are potential advantages of artificial intelligence integration into dialysis machines? That's right. So they can analyze fluid removal for more precise management. They can provide real-time monitoring of blood pressure, urea levels, and fluid balance during a dialysis session. They can detect blood clot risk early on, as well as access site issues before they become severe, and also offer more precise prediction of medication dosing, such as Mircera. And last but not least, what class of medication is now available for dialysis patients to stimulate red blood cell production? That's correct. So it's hypoxia-inducible factor prolyl hydroxylase, Vafseo or Vadadustat. So again, we may start to use this at some point at the Kidney Center as an alternative to Mircera and other erythropoiesis-stimulating agents. Okay, this concludes the April 2025 venture into new technology in the dialysis world. Thank you so much for your attention, for taking excellent care of our patients. This is Andy Brokenborough signing out until next month. Take care.